King Radio Network at ParanormalKing.com.
Welcome to the Paranormal News Insider for the week of September 18th, 2018. And this is episode number 368. And this is your host, as always, Dr. Brian D. Parsons. And yeah, it's kind of a welcome back. We took the week off last Tuesday, so I'm kind of playing a little catch up here. Need to take a little bit of a siesta, a little bit of a break, a little bit of, I don't know what you call it, a holiday, vacation. You can call it whatever you want. Just a little bit of a break. Because for me, as I was talking to my producer off air prior to the show, it's the silly season coming up. So I kind of got a lot of stuff going on, got some presentations I'm trying to get ready for some of these events coming up in the silly season of October. Yes, it's right around the corner, and it'll be here before you know it. And that's when all of us paranormal people, we're busy. Well, we're booked up. People are looking at us as experts on all this stuff, even though we're here pretty much 52 weeks out of the year. But suddenly in October, they want our undivided attention for everything. And with taking last week off, we have a few stories that were in development last week. And some of these I just can't ignore. So we're going to be talking about some of these big ones, which I'm sure you've heard about, some of these larger ones. And tonight's weird. We're going to be talking a lot about conspiracy theories. I'm not really a big conspiracy theory person, but there's some really strange stuff going around. Some of it's kind of irritating and annoying for me as far as I'm concerned, the way it's being put out there by some of these people. But others, there's this one story that I'm sure you guys are well aware of. It's probably one of the biggest stories of the year that I'm baffled myself. And baffled is always a funny word. Because it seems like everyone always says that scientists are constantly baffled. Just because they don't know the answer doesn't mean they're baffled. But yeah, we're also going to talk about tonight. It's going to be the lead-off story. Shouldn't do that. That's not good news journalism. But hey, we've had a week off, so I'm going to kind of throw you guys a bone there. We're going to talk about one of the longest-standing unsolved stories of 2018. This happened earlier this year, and it's finally been solved. Probably not heard about it being solved, but you'll definitely remember this viral thing that happened. It was a photograph. And again, we're going to lead off with that story. We'll talk about this strange creature sighting that was solved, or at least admitted. And we'll go deeper into that here, the first story. So we also have Bigfoot lawsuit tossed on lack of footing, or I haven't decided which one I want to run with here, or British Columbia Supreme Court Justice not standing for this. I know you don't get it, but when I talk about the story, you'll think back to what I just said, and hopefully you'll get a laugh from my extremely dry humor on this. But it's funny, trust me. And we'll also talk about a Bigfoot hunt planned for September 22nd. Oh my gosh, how cruel. How can they do this? You're going to want to stay tuned for that story for me to explain what's going on. You're not going to want to miss that story. Also, mountain lions. Yes, I talk a lot about mountain lions. It's one of my passions. You may not think that they're actually cryptids, but mountain lions are not supposed to exist east of the Mississippi River, with the exception of southern Florida with the Florida panther. But this story is not even here in the United States. It's over in Ireland. So mountain lion sightings prompt officials to set up traps and cameras in Ireland. This is a kind of a developing story. I've been keeping my eye on this very closely. This is a really interesting one. Usually you can kind of dismiss these kind of things, but we'll get into that when we get into that. And what about those mysterious footprints on the floor of the Pacific Ocean? Yes, this has scientists baffled as always. They have no idea what's going on, or do they? Conspiracy theorists have their own ideas, but scientists do as well. And we'll explore that conspiracy theory and that mystery And speaking of conspiracies, the biggest story going on right now, actually all the way up until pretty much Sunday afternoon, when I was writing up this story, I was gathering a lot of facts and information, reading a lot of different sources, trying to get the best quotes I could get and get into this information. And all of a sudden, the story started developing on Sunday afternoon. So you probably heard about this. Yes, the mysterious evacuation of the solar observatory, but it leaves more conspiracies than answers. And yes, I'm baffled about this story myself, to be quite honest with you. A very mysterious story. And we're going to dig into that a little bit deeper here tonight on the Paranormal News Insider, right here on Paranormal King Radio Network at Paranormal King. Yeah, Paranormal King Radio. ParanormalKing.com. That's what I was searching for. My mind went blank. So, yeah, that's what happens when you have 2 weeks off. You can't remember what you memorized before. So, events, paranormal conferences, conventions. I talk about this every single week. I know some of you guys don't like it, but hey, that's what we do here on the show. We talk about this stuff. I think it's important. I really do. And I'm involved in a lot of these, so I do talk about it. A lot of emails I get about these paranormal conferences, conventions, people let me know what's going on. Sometimes these events are canceled. Sometimes people are inviting me out to speak. Not often, but sometimes. But I just updated prior to tonight's show the events listing at paranewsinsider.com. You click on the events tab. It's right up there at the top. You can't miss it. And then you'll see all the paranormal conferences that I have logged in so far. But yes, it's not a complete listing. There's a lot that I've missed out on, a lot that I don't know that's going on out there. I don't really have time this time of the year to really dig in. And I know a bunch should be going on. So if you know of any event and you don't see it on that list, let me know. And I'll do my best to get it on that list as soon as possible. I've added a few, took a couple off. I try to keep it updated as much as I can. And if there is a cancellation, I do leave it on the website. I'm not going to take it down. I'm going to let everybody know that it was canceled. And I do my best to keep you guys updated because these conferences, conventions, yeah, I do drone on and on about them at the beginning of every show, but it's important because if you have any interest in any kind of paranormal area, you owe it to yourself to go to one of these events if they're in your area. Yeah, they're not all the same, but if you're interested in ghosts, you're interested in UFOs, you're interested in cryptids, you got to get out to one of these and mix and mingle, get to know these people, share your stories. Trust me, they want to hear from you. If you've had an experience, these people, this is what they do in their spare time. Not really many, if any, will get paid. If they're telling you they get paid, they might be lying to you. But most of us, we don't get paid for this stuff. But we have a big interest, and we do like to help people through these situations. We've done all sorts of different things. Like I'm talking for all these people at these conferences, conventions. But trust me, go to these things. So go to paranewsinsider.com. Well, not right now. You got to listen to the show first. Just jot that down, save it as a link, whatever you got to do, and check it out after the show. And you can let me know, or you can email me at insider@paranewsinsider.com, or there's a contact page also on paranewsinsider.com. You can also find me on Facebook at /paranewsinsider, and also on Twitter at paranewsinsider. So lots of ways to get a hold of me, and you will eventually get a hold of me. And like I mentioned, I'm involved in a lot of these events. I got quite a few coming up myself. And again, October equals silly season. It's crazy. All of us that do any public speaking at libraries or other events, we're all going to be out there. And starting, my October actually starts on September 30th. So I get a quick start, early start, and I'll be speaking at the Floyd E. Youngkin branch of the Pickaway County Public Library in Asheville, Ohio. Again, on Sunday, September 30th, and I'll be there from 2 to 4 p.m., probably a little later as well. And that's actually going to be on cryptids with a little bit of an Ohio focus. And following weekend, October 5th and 6th, I'll be actually speaking on the 6th, but I'm going to try to be there on October 5th. The Uncon 12, and Uncon stands for unconventional. Really cool. show. I think it's a great idea and what they're doing. It's really a family-friendly event. They're talking about all sorts of different things. It's kind of like a Comic-Con toned down a little bit. There's going to be some artists there. One of the artists, he's been on numerous television shows. Actually, I believe he's in the Guinness Book of World Records for appearing on television as the most characters wearing makeup. And a lot of these are actually Star Trek episodes. So if you're a Trekkie, you might want to check this out. The Uncon 12. It's in Piqua, Ohio. So this is outside of Dayton. So it's basically northwest of Cincinnati, just probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours north of Cincinnati. It's really easy to get to from Indiana, Kentucky, and obviously anywhere in Ohio. It's a really interesting event. I'm really looking forward to this. And again, I'll be talking about cryptozoology, but a part of the theme is alien freak shows. So there's going to be a little bit of a UFO connection to my presentation. It's definitely going to be different than my Pickaway County Public Library presentation. Pretty much any presentation I do, I try to make it specific for that event. Yes, there's some slides that are going to be the same, but overall the presentation is a little bit different. The focus is different. The following weekend, October 13th, I'll be at the Albatwitch Festival in Columbia, Pennsylvania, and fellow speakers Tim Renner and friend Rick Fisher will also be there speaking on cryptozoology. I've decided I'm going to be talking about big cats and black cats. So that's going to be my focus there on October 13th at the Albatwitch Festival. And Columbia, Pennsylvania is all the way on the eastern side, out towards, Philadelphia, I guess, pretty much. So that's going to be quite the trek, but I'm really excited. I've always wanted to go out there and always wanted to be at that event, let alone getting to speak there. So kind of 2 in 1. It's a bonus. And, well, I'm missing one. I'll be speaking at the Westerville Public Library, and that's going to be my final, maybe, who knows, might be, I don't know, might be putting another one together. I don't know. Doubt it. But Westerville Public Library, this is going to be my 10th consecutive appearance. That's quite the honor. I'm really excited to be there. October 30th. So that wraps up my October to remember, my silly season. The Westerville Public Library in Westerville, Ohio. That's northeast of Columbus, and I'll be talking on Ohio cryptids and strange creatures. It'll be pretty similar to my other Ohio library appearance, but I'm going to be changing a couple of things just to make it unique, and I owe it to the folks there at the Westerville Public Library. Always a great crowd on hand at that event. And with that, yeah, you guys came here for the news, not to hear about this stuff, but I think it's important stuff that we talk about all these conferences and conventions. And again, highly recommend checking out a list and getting out to one of these events. And I mentioned this, 4 or 5 times. I'm going to just mention it real quick here. Don't forget about 2019. Yeah, it's just around the corner. The 2019 PA Bigfoot Camping Adventure. It takes place May 31st through June 2nd, 2019 at the Benner's Meadow Run Campground in Farmington, Pennsylvania. Well, tickets went on sale a couple of weeks ago, and they're going fast. You really want to check this event out. There's going to be a lot of big-name people. Not saying I'm a big-name person, but I'm going to be one of the 12 speakers on hand, and there's also going to be a lot of celebrity guests, including the guys from the Appalachian Investigators of Mysterious Sightings, also known as AIMS, or in other words, the guys from the Mountain Monsters television show. They're going to be making their second straight appearance. Also going to have Bill Brock, host of the television show Monsters Underground. Also have Dr. Jeff Meldrum. And also Cliff Barackman of Finding Bigfoot. He's going to be on hand. Really excited to meet him. Really cool guy. This, this does not even include the 12 speakers, workshop hosts, and other special guests, including Lon Strickler. And and myself will both be there. A lot of other people, especially the Pennsylvania folks, Stan Gordon. This is being hosted by Eric Altman, who's a fantastic researcher, fantastic investigator. And I say fantastic because I know he's listening. At least he better be. And he's also a very big fan of the show. So I can't wait for that event next year. And I'm telling you, you never think it's going to get any better. The first 2 years were fantastic, despite the wind, the rain, the cold, the frostbite. Just kidding, there was no frostbite. It was just really wet and cold the first year. It was raining the second year. But I tell you what, it was the adventure of a lifetime, or the experience of a lifetime, which is what they bill it as. It is the experience of a lifetime. I've had 2 experiences right back to back. But this year, after a year off, 2018, next year is going to be off the charts. It's going to be intense. You get it? Intense, PA Bigfoot Camping Adventure. I can't explain that too many times. Anyway, before you all unplug from this show, let's get to the cryptid news for this last 2 weeks. And I promised it to you, and we're going to talk about it right up front. Yes, another cryptozoological mystery is solved. And you know what? It drives me crazy when these stories come up. Everybody talks about it. It's all over the news. People have their own thoughts and hypotheses about what's going on. And then all of a sudden it just fades away. You don't hear anything from it. I keep a running list of cases, or I should really say news stories. To me, I consider them cases almost. Stories that I'm consistently following up on to see if there's any kind of new information. And this one has been cold for ever since March when this came out. And maybe you remember this, maybe you don't. Last March, a strange creature was filmed on a beach in Darien, Georgia. The image quickly became a viral sensation on not only social media, but also with mainstream news media all over the world. Yes, this was picked up everywhere. I believe CNN had this thing. All the major news outlets were talking about this. This was a really big deal. And I do have a picture that I'll throw in the chat room. Hopefully this works. And you guys remember this one. So this one was a really weird fish-looking thing. And they had blurred out the guts. Well, I have the unblurred version here in the chat room. So be aware. There's some guts on the screen. So you may remember this. It kind of looked like, a lot of people said this looks like the Loch Ness Monster. Could be. Or it could be an eel. You know, a lot of people were speculating. I couldn't figure it out, and I love marine biology. I know plenty of animals that live in the ocean, and I was stumped. I couldn't figure it out. It just didn't look right to me. But I didn't think it was CGI. I just thought it was a hoax of some sort. And if you can't see the picture, well, you know, that's one of the perks of being in the chat room. You get to see these links and the photographs, a lot of these stories. I share them in the chat room. So that's another reason for you guys to tune in, not only live, but get your butt in the chat room. You can see all this stuff as it happens, as it develops. But, you know, I get it. You don't have time. So if you don't have time to listen live or get into the chat room live, don't worry about that. You can go to Facebook, and again, Paranews Insider, or you can follow me on Twitter, @Paranews Insider. And during the week after the show, I do put out these links, 1 or 2 a day. I don't like to inundate people with too much information, so I kind of spread these out throughout the week. And I just kind of feed them to you little by little so you can keep track of these stories, and then you'll be able to see the picture. But you got to wait. I guess you can Google stuff. So anyway, this creature is described as having a long neck and flippers, very similar to the Loch Ness Monster. Although it's not as financially friendly to the region as Nessie, there was a lot of speculation about what this creature might be if it were explainable. And everything that people threw up against the wall, hoping it would stick, no, it all fell to the floor. Nothing really looks like this in nature. Not a juvenile animal, not an adult creature. Nothing looks exactly like this creature. You know, when I thought, well, maybe people were saying it was a stillborn whale or something like that, or something. I don't know. There was a lot of speculation going on, but none of it really made any sense. And to me, I was thinking hoax. But the weirdest thing about this was, and a lot of people put this together, and I kind of backed into it. I saw a comment about it, and I knew that area had sounded familiar. Well, there just so happens to be a creature in the area. It's actually a local urban legend. It's the region's very own Loch Ness Monster creature, and it's called the Altamaha-ha. That's how it's spelled. That's how I say it, the Altamaha-ha. And when I heard about this, that this creature was in this area, I looked it up, and lo and behold, this looks exactly like the Altamaha-ha. And I thought it was a little bit too convenient, in my opinion. And if you look that up, you type that in there, yeah, haha, just kind of funny. There's actually a display at a welcome center along one of the interstates in the area. And the creature looks almost exactly like this. Not actually posed this way, laying on the beach. But when you see the picture, you're like, wait a minute, that's just way too perfect. And a lot of times when you see these kind of statues or other homages to these creatures, they're pretty much just how the artist kind of feels that this creature should look. It's maybe not like a drawing that somebody saw or description. Sometimes it's a little bit just artists kind of a freedom of their own kind of thought process. And that kind of got me thinking, there's no way this is this creature. It's got to be a hoax. But again, we went so long without hearing about it, and it was just driving me crazy. But it turns out that it was definitely a hoax. And how do I know this? Well, the person who did this, well, she came forward. Yes, she came forward. The creature was intentionally created, but it's not just something meant to fool. It's also meant to stir the minds of the people who view this. And you can actually see this creature yourself as the mysterious creature seen in these stories. It went viral again earlier this year, is actually created as a piece of art that will be on display next month. Now, marine biologist Quentin White said when this story first broke, quote, "This could easily be faked. We think someone's playing a joke on us," unquote. Well, many of us felt the same way, but nothing broke on this story. And I was left pondering of who might have been behind this. Was this really a hoax? If they did do this hoax, how did they do it? And why did they do it? And, when there's no one steps forward, at the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, gosh, maybe this was legitimate. But again, if it was legitimate, why wouldn't somebody collect pieces of this? Why was there no DNA collected? But just, the mystery just kind of, you have to start thinking common sense with these kind of things. And, why wasn't anything collected if it was such a big mystery? But again, all that kind of fell flat, and we wondered, I figured there's more or less probably a hoax because we don't have any information DNA-wise as to what this thing was. Nobody got really anything from this creature. And if it's that big of a mystery, just clip off a piece, take something. But anyway, the perpetrator of this hoax is none other than New York City-based artist Zardulu. That's right, Zardulu. Sounds like a magician, but an artist. And she is a complete mystery. She's only known to, one little factoid is that she was born in Manhattan in 1971, and nobody knows who she is. At least nobody's saying anything. And you may not have ever heard of this artist, or maybe you've seen this picture of this creature that washed up on the Georgia beach. But she's kind of a troublemaker when it comes to maybe not the paranormal, but myth. Because she identifies herself as a myth maker and is the person behind a couple of stories. I've only talked about, I never talked about this one, but I know I've shared this on Facebook at one point. And I've seen it all over Facebook, all over Twitter. You may have seen some of these stories, like the rat selfie video, where there was a guy laying in the subway and this mouse was on his lap and took a picture of itself with his phone. No, don't remember that one. What about the pizza rat video, where the mouse looked like a mouse, but they said it was a rat, was going down the stairs in the subway in New York City, and it was dragging a full piece of New York pie along with it? No. Well, what about the, you've probably seen that, you have to have seen this picture, the raccoon that was riding on the back of the alligator. I know you've seen that one. Yes, the great Zardulu was behind the raccoon riding the back of the alligator. I'm sure you've seen this photograph. It was probably most popular on a meme that talked about it being about Florida. Well, yeah, it's fake. It's actually just two taxidermied animals put together and sealed so they wouldn't get waterlogged. Very, very interesting. And I found that very hard to believe. And I found no source for it, so I wasn't sure whether it was real or not. So it's nice to know that it was actually fake. Thank you, Zardulu, for letting us know about this. And the latest piece of this strange creature, again on the Georgia beach, will be displayed at Zardulu's first solo exhibition, held at the Transfer Gallery, located between Broadway and West Broadway on Canal Street. Yeah, if it sounds like New York City, that's because it is in New York City. The exhibition is titled Trichonis Arturnus, Rites and Mysteries, and will feature other items used in other photographs and myths perpetrated by Zardulu. So that's Trichonis Arturnus, Rites and Mysteries. And there's also going to be a book in the works with these pieces featured as well, and it's going to have that same name, Trichonis Arturnus, Rites and Mysteries. So keep an eye out for that. I got to put that on my list there of books I need to buy, which is, I think, stretching into the 200 or 300s at this point. I got to see that, in case there's other stuff that I didn't know about. I don't think I'm going to be able to make it to this exhibition, but if you're going to be in New York City between October 4th and November 1st, you got a good chance. You can go down there and see it. And if you're interested and you're going to be in that area within those dates, you can find more information about the gallery viewing times by visiting transfergallery.com. And I wish I could go see that. I'm not really that big of an art nerd, but I think I would really be interested in this Mythmaker Zardulu's thing. I think that's really cool. And it's really reassuring. I really feel relaxed when I finally find the solution to one of these stories. So really excited about that. And we're at the bottom of the hour. I want to let you know that you're tuned in to the Paranormal King Radio Network, emanating live at paranormalking.com and elsewhere around the World Wide Web. And you're listening to the Paranormal News Insider with your host, Dr. Brian D. Parsons. And jump back into cryptid news and another conclusion to another story. And this one would have talked about this last week's show and just kind of dug a little bit of dirt and thrown it on top of it and just kind of walked away. But I got to mention this because it's kind of big news. I've been talking about this for quite a long time. And this was a conclusion that was just a matter of time. And it's finally been reached. Todd Standing. Well, his British Columbia Bigfoot case has been tossed out of court by the judge. That's finally official. People were talking about this back when Standing was talking about this, but it wasn't official back then. It was official a couple of weeks ago now. The judge did take a little bit of time to reflect on the case, but many felt it was never going to make it very far, and it did not. British Columbia Supreme Court Justice Kenneth Ball found no reasonable cause for the lawsuit and said the court had no power to compel the province to conduct scientific investigations of its flora and fauna. And I've been saying that all along. That's not a court's place to discover new animals. That's not where you do things at. And I get it. He's frustrated with the state, with the province. We get that here in Ohio, too, because of mountain lion situations and things like that. But we don't go and sue the state. It's really not the right way to go about things. And I get what he's trying to do, and I kind of feel for him for what he's trying to discover here. But I think he just kind of went the wrong way about it. The judge also dismissed the claims that Standing's rights were being violated, as the province never had placed restrictions on his Bigfoot-related interests. The claim that his rights were being infringed and his way of life being affected was his only wedge to get into the court system, but it was also the easiest thing to shred up in the court system as well. So he's probably going to try that same approach in other courts. As he said, he's going to be trying this in other places, in other provinces, as well as here in the United States, California, and I think Montana, some other areas. If he's gonna use that, he's gonna hurt himself, because he had a Netflix special. He created a show and had it on Netflix, and he charges people to go out in the woods with him. He's put himself out here on stories year after year. So it's his own fault. I mean, he keeps putting himself out there, and if you put yourself out there far enough, somebody's eventually going to whack your neck. That's just what happens here in the paranormal. The bigger of a superstar you want to try to make yourself, the more people are going to come after you. That's just par for the course. It's just how it is. And you can't try to blow your nose by using documents in the court system to dry your eyes with it. It's just no one's going to really take pity on you for that. And the court system, they're going to eat you alive, because they rely on evidence, forensic evidence, which there is no Bigfoot related forensic evidence. Nothing really would ever stand up in court. So unfortunately, tossed out here. And the document dismissing the claim also said in part, quote, "Non-acknowledgement of the Sasquatch does not in any way prohibit or restrict the plaintiff's ability to express his thoughts, beliefs, and opinions regarding the Sasquatch," unquote, and drop the mic. Well, like I said, Standing still plans on attempting the same lawsuit in other parts of Canada and the United States. But first, he's going to have to pay the British Columbia province's legal fees for this first attempt. No word on how much that costs, but that's got to be, it's got to cost at least a black eye to Todd Standing. And as an attempt to prove in the court of law that Bigfoot is real, well, let's prove it in the field first, and then we can worry about the court system. Moving along here in cryptozoology, September 22nd of this year, coming up this weekend, there's going to be a planned Bigfoot hunt in Montana. And don't worry, not only are they going to be hunting for Bigfoot, but there's also going to be a baby Bigfoot hunt as well. But don't worry, as disturbing as it sounds, it's actually all in good fun and for a good reason. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because what it's for. The Clarkston Fire Service in Three Forks, Montana is in desperate need of new equipment, including radios and truck radios. And the radios cost about $1,500 each, and they need 10 of them. And truck radios cost around $3,000, and they need 4 of those. So you don't need be a mathematician to realize they need a lot of money to buy this equipment. So the fire department has created a very unique fundraising opportunity by asking people to come out and hike, not for Bigfoot, not to look for Bigfoot, but to get out there with Bigfoot. Yes, that's right. Bigfoot was invited and will make an appearance at the event. Somebody might want to send Todd Standing an invitation to this. He might want to come out there and check it out for himself. Yeah, yes, Bigfoot was invited. He's going to be there. And it's really cool because it's not just a costume, but it's a guy in makeup, and it's pretty good makeup. It's actually on the front of their website on Facebook there, and it looks pretty impressive. Kind of challenges the Slim Jim guy there. No, it's not Slim Jim. Who is that? That's Beef Jerky. You guys know who that is. Anyway, it's going to be permits sold. So the permits, you're going to be able to hike with Bigfoot. I don't know if you're going to be looking for his cousins or whomever. But they're also going to have kids walks looking for Bigfoot as well, which I really enjoy. And this is kind of one of the things that drew me to the story, is because we'd like to do that at the PA Bigfoot Camping Adventure. The last 2 years that Eric Altman's put that on, 2016 and 17, we did focus on the kids. We had the kids go around pretty much at the campground, and we showed them how to look for tracks, how to be quiet, how to look in the woods, how to keep your night vision going, and just different tricks of the trade, and really enjoy kids that are really into this stuff. So this raising money and also getting the kids interested in this stuff, I think is a win-win. They're also going to have silent auctions, food, which sounds tremendously awesome. It's barbecue. It sounds like a lot of fun. And again, it's taking place this Saturday. So if you're anywhere near the Bozeman, Montana area, I highly suggest you find a way to get out there. And I just wanted to mention that story. I thought it was cool because of their community involvement. They're tying in Bigfoot with it. One last story here in the cryptid arena, then we're going to move on. There's been a lot of stories about mountain lions in the news recently, but most of those have been from the western part of the United States. And yes, it was mentioned in the chat room. Unfortunately, a cougar attack in Oregon killed a woman, and they've killed one mountain lion, and they're still on the lookout, still on the prowl for potentially others, because they've not been able to link the DNA evidence to this one mountain lion in Oregon that killed somebody. And this is the second fatality this year in the United States. So it's kind of, it's scary. I mean, these are ambush predators. They do, being ambushed, you're not going to see them. They're going to come out of nowhere. They're going to attack you. If you do see one, you're probably pretty safe as long as you don't turn around and start running or get on your bike and ride away. If you're in the mountains, you're out there hiking, I don't recommend, if you're going to be on a bike, don't have music on. If you're going to be running, don't have your music on. It's a trade-off. If you want to enjoy the mountains, then just enjoy the mountains. If you want to run in your neighborhood with headphones on, so be it. But you need that extra sense of hearing, even though you're probably not going to hear it come up behind you, but at least it gives you a little bit of a fighting chance to fend off a mountain lion if you're attacked. And better yet, to have work in a group. The biker who was killed earlier this year, he was there was two of them. Both were attacked, but unfortunately one of them died. This Oregon woman, unfortunately, she was by herself, and who knows what she did or how she reacted. We don't know, but they blame the mountain lion anyway because you don't want it to get a taste for people or attacking people. That's not good at all. So unfortunately, that's the way that one ended. But I could go on. I could do a 1-hour show just on mountain lions stories. There's just so much going on between California, these attacks in Oregon, and what's going on in South Dakota, let alone sightings all over the United States between Kentucky. There's a big stir going on down there. And there's also stirring going on in Pennsylvania as well. And not to mention the sad information coming from South Florida about how the mountain lions, the Florida panther, I should say, is really struggling from inbreeding and being cut off from being able to get out from its limited area of access. But interestingly enough, we go to another country to be talking about mountain lions. A mountain lion potentially may be in Ireland. And there's been a growing list of sightings and what's been called a credible list of sightings generated from Ireland. I'm not so sure myself, but it's interesting how this has started to snowball. At least 6 sightings of a creature described as, quote, a Labrador dog with a much longer tail, unquote, has led some to believe that there might just be a mountain lion on the loose in the United Kingdom. The actual quote came from witness Aoife Fitzgerald, who said, quote, it definitely had a cat face, but it was bigger than a Labrador. It was a blondie brown color, and it had a fierce, slow stride like a cat, unquote. So that to me does sound mountain lion-ish. The sightings around the Cork area have been slowly piling up for around 2 weeks now, but time will tell. I should say time will tell if the tale will lead to a real big cat. And the tail, well, that's the big thing we have to watch out for. Mountain lions have a tail that's about 2/3 the length of their body, capped off with a nice black tip. You really can't mistake it, but unfortunately, people do. Most sightings where mountain lions are involved, especially where they don't live, these turn out to be feral or house cats, or in other words, mistaken identity. Also here in the United States, a lot of people see bobcats, and if the tail doesn't show up in the picture, they automatically assume mountain lion. The Cork Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals stated that these sightings are too credible to ignore and has decided to put up traps and cameras to document or potentially catch the purported cat. And yet there's been no solid evidence to support the existence of a mountain lion, but these efforts may help. So if they put up cameras, maybe they can find this creature. If getting a photograph of it will help, hopefully, determine whether or not this is a true thing going on, or it's just mass hysteria, or it's just a big cat. I mean, unfortunately, we've talked about stories here on the Paranormal News Insider about just big cats, not big cats as in mountain lions or lions or anything like that, but just big house cats. Sometimes when they're out running around, they're going to fool you. The lynx also is sometimes mistaken for mountain lions, but that's primarily in the Northeast or in Canada, where they're a little bit more plentiful. We have more bobcat here in Ohio than lynx. But even people, it's confusing for those two animals too. People confuse the two because they look pretty familiar, or pretty familiar, pretty much about the same thing. And as far as, there's also a question in the chat room about before the Oregon mountain lion, was it black? So there's never been any mountain lion ever in the history of killing mountain lions that's ever appeared black. The only black creature we have, large cat that we have in the Americas, so that would be South America, North America, would be the leopard. The leopard has a melanistic phase, but unfortunately, it only appears melanistic south of an area called the Isthmus of Tehuantepec. And the Isthmus of Tehuantepec is pretty much north. If you know where the Panama Canal is, it's pretty much northeast of that. It's a narrow band of area where the forest changes, goes into hills, a little bit more desert area as it goes into Mexico. And with that change, you lose the heavy cover of the jungles, and that's where you generally will see these cats. When you're talking about Black Panther. Black Panther is not a specific cat. It's just basically a leopard or jaguar. I'm sorry, did I say leopard in the Americas? I meant jaguar. I was thinking leopards. Leopards are more often seen as black, and leopards occur in Europe and Asia. And again, they appear black only, well, I don't want to say only, but primarily, overwhelming number of those appear in heavy jungle areas. The same with the jaguar here in the Americas, but it's basically going to be in heavier, thicker jungle. We actually have jaguar here in the United States. They don't breed here, but they do sneak in over the border. Just don't tell Trump. Please don't tell Trump. But they do sneak over the border and they go back into Mexico. A small breeding population of these creatures exists over the border. But unfortunately, one of those was killed not that long ago. And that's an irritating, very irritating story. But I think there's still one left. Yeah, but jaguars generally appear with the basically the spots, so they're kind of yellowish with the spots that are outlined in black with the brown in it. They do appear melanistic, but not as much as the leopards. And again, when you talk about those two cats and their black and their melanistic phase, They're just basically called generically black panthers. We also have a lot of other black cats here in the United States. The jaguarundi, which primarily in Texas, looks like a big, tall, thin house cat. They also have a melanistic phase. Bobcats have also had melanistic phases, but not very many of them. I think only a dozen have been found, and they've been found in Florida, again, in heavier jungle areas. So if mountain lions have not been discovered as having a melanistic phase in South America, they definitely wouldn't happen in North America. But back to Ireland, it's still a mystery. I've been looking for this story to see if there's been any solution to it. No cameras have been tripped, and I got a feeling we're not going to hear about this cat again. So what would this cat be? Obviously, and I say obviously because there's no way a regular mountain lion is going to swim through the ocean from Canada all the way to Ireland. I suppose it's maybe possible, but I seriously doubt it could make it that far without dying in the cold water. Probably an escaped animal, an escaped exotic pet, which are illegal in the UK. You can't own them anymore. They very strict laws in the 1970s prohibit this. Local zoos and other private menageries that do exist in Ireland all have said that it's not our cat. So what is going on there? We'll keep an eye peeled for that. And sadly, yes, there is no UFO news this week, but next week we will talk about the MUFON sighting statistics for the month of August. And go to YouTube. Not now, wait about 20 minutes until I'm done here with the show, but go to YouTube and look up mountain lion swimming. They do a very good job, and they do swim quite a bit. They get across the Mississippi River every now and again. Some cats are good at swimming. Some cats are deathly afraid of the water. I believe jaguars are also very agile in the water. If you've ever seen videos of leopards, you've seen them go into water and kill alligators, or I should say crocodiles, in the water. So a lot of these big cats don't mind the water. They don't thrive in it, obviously, but they do attack animals that do live in the water, and these cats do swim when they're forced to. It's not like they want to. It's like deer. People don't realize that deer can swim. They do the doggy paddle. They're very weird. But a lot of animals that people don't think actually get in the water, they actually get in the water. That would flip me out to see a mountain lion swimming toward me in the water. But anyway, so we have a couple of conspiracy theories here to close out the show this week. And one is just really, really out there. A story back on August 25th, appearing on the website, the Maritime Executive, was titled, quote, "Whale tracks found in areas targeted for deep sea mining," unquote. Well, this article received very little attention from anybody. But just a few days later, another story titled, quote, "Strange footprints discovered 4 kilometers beneath ocean surface," unquote, from the UK-based Express website generated a ton of interest in these same tracks that was in the aforementioned article that appeared at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. This thing went viral. It was all over the media, numerous websites, all sorts of media talking about this story. And unfortunately, I have to talk about these people. I don't want to mention them by name, and I've tried to avoid it, but I think it needs to be said so people understand that there are some parasites out there. And what I mean by parasites are paranormal websites. Could be a YouTube channel, could be a paranormal blogger or whatever. There's a lot of websites out there that spew misinformation on purpose just to get website hits. Clickbait. Watch my YouTube video on this thing that's going around because I make money from it. Or they sell these stories to the highest bidder, especially the United Kingdom. If you want to make any money, make up a fake story and sell it to the Sun or the Examiner or the Express, and they'll pay you money for it. Granted, people like myself, we're going to catch you. We're going to expose you, and you're going to be a fool. We're going to make you into a fool. You already were a fool. because you thought you're going to get away with it. And you won't get away with it. But YouTube channel Secure Team 10, they're back at it again. There's a lot of people that go after these guys. UFO of Interest, which I follow on Twitter, recommend you do as well. They really, really expose a lot of people. But yeah, if you have a picture of a celebrity, I don't know the conversion here, but they'll pay a few $1,000s for a story on a celebrity photograph or news story. General stories don't really give you that much, but a paranormal news story which gets tons of hits very, very fast and helps get their newspapers out there, you can actually make a decent amount of money, a few $100s up to a few grand of these stories. Believe it or not, they do pay you pretty good amounts. I've got that from a few inside sources of people that have gone after some of these stories a little bit more in depth than I have. But anyway, Secure Team 10, they seem to cash in on a lot of these stories, these simple stories that come out. They twist them into conspiracy theories, photographs or videos. They assume that they're UFOs or some sort of cover-up, and they just kind of create their own story, and they get attention from it. They sell these stories to the media after they've already generated a lot of their own hits, so they make a lot of money off of this stuff. Not thousands of dollars, but enough money to pay for a lot of things, their website and everything else. I'm sure living in mom's basement and all these other things that they pay for. And they've done so once again with this story. Scientists from the National Oceanographic Center, the NOC, and the University of Southampton discovered over 3,500 individual impressions in the seabed at over 4,200 meters. Well, for you and I, that's about 2.5 miles below the surface. These strange impressions were not random and seemed to form trackways or prints that were described as, quote, almost like footprints, unquote. Not footprints, but almost like footprints. These prints were far too big to be created by fish. So, of course, that information there, the conspiracy theorists took this and ran. And the theory was for them that these were not only footprints, but they had to be footprints, well, you guessed it, of aliens. Who else but aliens? While scientists feel these prints were actually caused by whales, I didn't know whales had feet. Well, no, they don't think it was the whales walking on the bottom of the surface of the water, but it was whales that they do funny things. They do funny things down there. Whales are known to dive pretty deep. There's some beaked whales and sperm whales that do dive pretty far, but this would extend their previously known depth to over 1,000 meters, or 1 kilometer, to my Canadian friends, or about 0.6 of a mile. And again, beaked whales have been reported to make nearly identical markings in other seabed areas. And sperm whales are also known to scrape the floor of oceans and forms very similar prints to this. So they're pretty sure, but they just don't know because of the depth issue. But just because they've never been known to be this deep before doesn't mean that it hasn't happened before. This is science. They didn't expect to find this. This was unexpected. They weren't really there for that. And more about that in a second. Scientists don't really get to study the ocean floor up close like this very frequently in this much area. And another issue about this is that the ocean floor at this depth, believe it or not, but it doesn't get disturbed very often. So tracks like this would be maintained actually for a very long period of time. You could almost say that the floor of the ocean is very similar to the moon, where things come to the floor of the ocean if there's animals living down there, or dead animals like a whale or a shark were to sink all the way to the bottom of the ocean. Whatever imprint they make is going to be down there for quite a long time. It's just what happens. So anything that makes any kind of impressions down there, those impressions can stay down there a long time until, again, it's interrupted. But really looking at the story, I was more focused on another aspect. I rolled my eyes about this alien theory, but I think the conspiracy theorists, well, they missed a golden opportunity. I mean, deep sea mining. What would they be mining for in the Pacific Ocean between Mexico and Hawaii, especially at those depths? These are beyond the normal seafloor mining depths. And seafloor mining is actually a fairly new thing, relatively new method for mining precious minerals. It's been around since the 60s. At least the thought about doing it has been around that long. But the physical act of actually doing it, it's been not very lucrative. And it's been done in obviously a lot shallower areas, easier to get to areas. But why this weird spot in the middle of the Pacific? It's highly dangerous for the water and the creatures that exist at that depth. We talk about, again, the water, the area of the floor getting messed up by whatever creatures are going on down there. When anything does impact that area, it takes a long time for that stuff to settle. So that's one of the biggest things against deep sea mining. And I think the conspiracy theorists, there's a lot they could have chewed on with that story, but they just walked away from it and just blamed aliens. But, well, maybe they'll be up for that. Last but not least, I got a few minutes left here in the story, in this news for this week, but I have this last story. I'm so excited. I'm jumbling my words here, but this is a big story. What could be the strangest paranormal story, I guess more accurately, conspiracy theory story of the year, took place on September 6th. And up to when I was writing the story, again, I started writing the story on Sunday. At that point, there was no answers, was confused, nothing was going on. And all of a sudden, during the time of writing the story, that all of a sudden all this news started coming out about this, which is really weird. Sunspot, New Mexico is the location of a strange scene where the Sunspot Solar Observatory, which is also known as the National Solar Observatory, was swarmed by FBI agents and a Black Hawk helicopter. Not helicopters, not plural. They weren't all over the place like was reported in some places. Just one. Local police officials were left out in the dark about what was actually going on. They were invited out there to assist if necessary, but were never called back to stand down or never told actually what was going on. Even to this day, they don't know what happened. The story was strange enough, for sure, but it began to spiral further into the conspiracy black hole again when Secure Team 10 once again began to spew their thoughts on what might have been occurring. So Tyler Glockner of Secure Team 10, he went onto YouTube to state that the facility was closed down due to evidence that a strange object was seen crossing in front of the sun other than the moon. So he showed video, the moon went by, then this other object went by. But that wasn't true. Wasn't true. The shocking revelation means that the government is well aware of a gigantic UFO, or apparently an object that looks kind of like the Death Star from Star Wars, was very close to Earth. Well, this, of course, completely moronic of an assumption, since there is more than one solar observatory in the world, let alone the United States, and let alone the state. Somebody else would have seen this, would have been observed. An object that large from that distance, we would have been able to see it. Wouldn't have been hidden. I mean, we see the moon. We would have seen a large object. It's just silly. You're watching too much Lost in Space or some other TV show. I don't know what you're watching. But it's silly. But people bought into this. They believed it. Plus, I mean, not to mention, if this was such a big secret, it was such a big government thing that we had to cover it up, why would the footage of this been leaked? If it was such a big matter of national security, how would some guy on a YouTube hoax channel get a hold of the footage and nobody else? Just saying. So others chimed into the story to reveal that this purported footage of the second object was recorded actually 2 days after the raid. And some thought it was altered from its original form to create this false accusation. But others say that the two shadows created were both from the moon on separate occasions. Granted, people are saying, well, one is one size, one is the other. It's not that hard to fake the size of a circle over this image. It's really easy, actually. But semantics aside, it's not worth arguing over these facts. People were really getting into this over this imagery, but you have to assume that that's just silliness. Other accusations included a purported solar storm that was headed our way. It was going to kill everybody. It was the end of the earth. It was going to shut down our electric grid and everything else. And the story was partially true. There was a moderate storm, according to officials, but it passed without any sort of incident. It just went by with nothing. It's fairly common. It happens all the time. Again, numerous agencies would have been aware of this occurrence, especially anybody with a paranormal website, especially a ghost website, would have the little solar weather, space weather thing on their website, and everybody would have known about it. It would have been a big mystery. I mean, it would have made a little sense to evacuate one little location over something like that. And some were making the assumption that this had something to do with Roswell. Well, Roswell is just less than 90 miles. Well, that's as the UFO flies from this location. And it was a nice story back in 1947, but in case you haven't noticed, not a whole lot going on lately with UFOs and aliens in that area, other than the annual festival out there. But the real mystery here, we were focused on all these other things, which I think was where people were getting caught up in this conspiracy theories. But the real mystery stems from the way FBI agents swarmed the facility and evacuated it without letting anyone else in on what was happening. So Otero County Sheriff Benny House told ABC7, quote, "The FBI is refusing to tell us what's going on. We've got people up there that requested us to stand by while they evacuated it. Nobody would really elaborate on any of the circumstances as to why. The FBI were up there. What their purpose was, nobody will say. For the FBI to get involved that quick and be so secretive about it, there was a lot of stuff going on up there. There was a Black Hawk helicopter, a bunch of people around antennas, and work crews on towers, but nobody would tell us anything," unquote. So more speculation went into the evacuation, including that there was foreign spies on site. The observatory is used to view the sun, but also provides a nice view of New Mexico's Tularosa Basin, which also includes two military bases, the White Sands Missile Range and Holloman Air Force Base. So this has been a kind of a rational conclusion for some. An alien invasion being seen from one tiny solar observatory is more fit for a streaming service-ready movie than reality. One thing about this hypothesis being wrong is that nearby sits the Apache Point Observatory, which has an array of telescopes, and it's not even a half mile away. It's currently operating as normal, was currently operating as normal throughout this whole entire evacuation. And it's actually got better tools to spy on anything going on in the basin than a solar telescope. So other than guesses and theories, including a large amount of mercury, somebody also said that there's a large amount of mercury that's kept on site. This could have leaked or was attempted to be stolen and potentially be weaponized. All of the speculation does not help the lack of facts coming in from those who created this situation. And some people are saying that this was a top secret facility. No, it's not. The Sunspot Solar Observatory, you can actually go there and get a public tour of the facility, and led by scientists on site. So officials who contacted the FBI included Benny House, who said he was only told there was a credible threat. However, House and his deputies observed no threat to the facility. James McCatter, a professor of New Mexico State University and director of the Sunspot Solar Observatory Consortium, stated that the consortium ordered the facility to be vacated and only mentioned a security issue. So this wasn't the FBI initiated. This was from the actual consortium that oversees the Sunspot Observatory. Kinsley Featherston, who was a spokeswoman for the Congressman Stephen Pierce, contacted the FBI and was told there was a, quote, ongoing investigation, unquote. The FBI told Featherston to contact the consortium about the issue. And Sherry Lifson, a spokeswoman for the Aurora the Aura Consortium stated that the group was, quote, addressing a security issue and had to decided to temporarily vacate the facility as a precautionary measure, unquote. So the evacuation of the site was from Aura, which stands for the Association of Universities for Research in Astronomy. Aura is a consortium of 42 U.S.-based and oversees other facilities other than the National Solar Observatory, including the Gemini Observatory in Hawaii, the Large Synoptic Survey Telescope, the LSST, which is under construction in Chile, the National Optical Astronomical Observatory, NOAO, in Tucson, Arizona, and the Space Telescope Science Institute, the STSCI, which is the Science Operations Center for the Hubble Telescope and for the James Webb Space Telescope that's yet to be launched. And as quick as all of this stuff came into our news feed, it disappeared just the same. Sunday evening, there was a statement released to the media from Aura, which said, quote, on September 6th, the Association of Universities for Research in Astronomy, Aura, and the National Science Foundation, NSF, made the decision to temporarily vacate the Sunspot Solar Observatory at Sacramento Peak, New Mexico, as a precautionary measure while addressing a security issue. The facility closed down in an orderly fashion and is now reopening. The residents that vacated their homes will be returning to the site, and all employees will return to work this week, which was actually yesterday. Aura has been cooperating with an ongoing law enforcement investigation of criminal activity that occurred at Sacramento Peak. During this time, we became concerned that a suspect in the investigation potentially posed a threat to the safety of local staff and residents. For this reason, Aura temporarily vacated the facility and ceased science activities at this location. The decision to vacate was based on the logistical challenges associated with protecting personnel at such a remote location and the need for expeditious response to the potential threat, getting them out of there quickly. Aura determined that moving this small amount of on-site staff and residents off the mountain was the most prudent and effective action to ensure their safety. In light of recent developments in the investigation, we determined there is no risk to staff of the Sunspot Solar Observatory in transitioning back to regular operations as of September 17th. And the big thing here, given the significant amount of publicity the temporary closure has generated and the consequent expectation of an unusual number of visitors to the site, we are temporarily engaging a security service while the facility returns to a normal working environment. We recognize that the lack of communication while the facility was vacated was concerning and frustrating for some. However, our desire to provide additional information had to be balanced against the risk that if spread at the time, the news would alert the suspect and impede the law enforcement investigation. This was a risk we could not take, unquote. So yes, the facility reopened as of yesterday, and its quick evacuation was due to a potential threat, and the lack of information was to avoid tipping off this particular threat, and the lack of information was to avoid tipping this person, which is really weird. I'm sure this will keep the conspiracy whirlwind blowing as, again, law enforcement seemed to be in the dark about what was going on, and they still have no answers. Otero County Sheriff Benny House told BuzzFeed News on Sunday, quote, if there was a threat to local residences and the area, they should be filling us in so we can also help take care of that and know what is going on in our community. No one has reached out to us at all, and we are not hearing anything but what conspiracy theorists are saying. It's all very weird, unquote. So a lot of people have published this story that they reopened the facility and this is the reason why, and it's all well and good. And most people are content with just sweeping it under the carpet. And again, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but I'm confused by this. Why was the local law enforcement not privy to this information? Why were they not even now receiving any information about what was going on, who this person was, what the threat was occurring, and why just this? Was it just this location? Was it local residents? What was going on? And why would the FBI be involved if there's military bases? Should have been the military involved here. Just a lot of questions unanswered. I think it's a bigger mystery than what people are really leading into. And it's interesting that all of this started because of people like Secure Team 10, which really confused people, but it did bring this into a little bit of mainstream news activity and give it a little bit more life. But again, I think that we're not done with the story. We need to really figure out what happened and what went on. But we'll keep an eye on that story, and I'll fill you in next week. And a lot more news is going to be happening next week. And as always, if you have any information about any paranormal conference, convention, or event, let me know. Get a hold of me at paranewsinsider.com. You can email me at insider@paranewsinsider.com. Find me on Twitter and Facebook. But again, I will see you next week. But for now, keep your eyes in the skies, your ears in the woods, the hair standing on the back of your neck, and always keep your mind slightly ajar. Above all else, don't stop believing. For the Paranormal News Insider, this is Dr. Brian D. Parsons reporting.